Little known facts about Russia. Russia is, quite frankly, enormous. Not only does it span two continents, Europe and Asia, it also has a surface area of 17.13 million square kilometers. That makes it even bigger than the famous ex-planet Pluto, which comes in at just 16.7 million square kilometers. Red Square has nothing to do with communism. That's right, the famous Moscow Square is actually named for its looks rather than any political persuasions. The Russian language is heavily influenced by Old Church Slavonic, which was Moscow's official literary language until the late 1600s. When Red Square was completed in the late 19th century, it was named Krasny, which means red, from the Old Slavic word for beautiful. Most European countries gave up the Julian calendar in the late 16th century. However, it wasn't until February 1918 that Russia finally switched to the Gregorian calendar, which it uses nowadays to celebrate its many festivals and celebrations. Apparently, using the Julian calendar led to the Russian Empire being 12 days too late for the 1908 Olympic Games in London. Despite spending much of the 20th century ideologically opposed, Russia and the United States are separated by just 4 kilometers of water. Indeed, in the middle of the Bering Strait are two islands, Little Diomede and Big Diomede. Little Diomede belongs to the US, while Big Diomede belongs to Russia. The islands straddle the international dateline, which means Big Diomede is almost a day ahead. The famous cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin journeyed into outer space in 1961. If you don't know the difference between an astronaut and a cosmonaut, wonder no more. A cosmonaut is trained by the Russian Space Agency, while an astronaut is trained by NASA, the European Space Agency, the Canadian Space Agency, or the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency. 1/5 of the world's trees are in Russia. That's 643 billion trees, the most that any country has. About 45% of the country is covered by trees, much of it in Russia's boreal forest, or taiga. These thick forest regions were once completely under glaciers and are now home to a whole load of brave species, including the Siberian tiger, wild boars, eagles, and owls. In Siberia, you'll find Lake Baikal. Not only is the lake the deepest lake in the world, but it also holds around 20% of the world's freshwater. Being in this chilly part of Russia, the lake regularly freezes during the winter, which means it's even possible to drive across it. Of course, the most popular one is Russian. However, according to the Ministry of Science and Higher Education, the Russian population speaks at least 270 languages and dialects. Whether or not that figure is accurate, there are undoubtedly many languages spoken in Russia. These include major foreign languages such as German and English, and languages native to Russia, such as Tatar, Chuvash, Karelian, and Chechen. The Ural mountain range divides European Russia in the west from Asian Russia in the east. However, despite the latter making up 77% of Russia's total landmass, less than a quarter of the Russian population lives there. There are several reasons for this, including historical, geopolitical, meteorological, and cultural. If you live in the EU, you probably used electricity from a Russian pipeline at some point. In fact, Russia provides 27% of the crude oil imports, 41% of its natural gas, and 47% of its solid fuel, such as coal. Indeed, as the world's third largest oil producer, Russia has yet to make renewable energy an absolute priority. Lake Karachay in the southern Ural Mountains is one of the most polluted places in the world. Apparently, radioactive waste was dumped here in the 1950s, including weapons and pollution from the nearby Mike nuclear plant. If you're considering a visit, don't. The radiation emitted by the lake could kill you within an hour. The country now ranks 33rd in the world for liters of alcohol consumed per person. That's less than many of its European neighbors, such as Germany, France, and the UK. Russia ranks 5th in the world for the amount of tea consumed per person. The drink first reached Russia in the 17th century, but it cost 10 times more than in Europe, as it took a year to deliver it from Moscow to Berlin. Nowadays, tea is far more accessible, and if you visit friends in Russia, they'll usually serve you tea accompanied by biscuits. Also, don't be surprised if your host offers you honey or jam to sweeten your tea. It's delicious.